Imagine a situation. You ask your friend or a colleague about your plugin UI design. You spend a lot of time, money and energy on it, and it looks like all the top products right now. And he says, obviously, wow, this looks cool. But here's the real question. What will happen to this design in 2 or 3 years? Will it still work for your brand, or it will actually make your brand feel outdated, generic, or even untrustworthy? In this video, I want to talk about chasing trends in UI and how it can damage a brand. I've been in this industry for over a decade, so here's what I noticed. The first and biggest problem with trendy design is its lifespan. Trends don't last long. Sometimes they live for a few years, and in today's information space, sometimes only a season. The fashion industry is the perfect example. What looks like a must-have this season often looks ridiculous or irrelevant the next year. You don't change UI every season. Products live for years, users get used to them, and here's the key idea. Design created for trends almost always looks outdated faster than design created for usability on specific purpose. Take 2 products released around the same time. Native Instruments Massive was a complex product for its time, but it wasn't trying to be fashionable. It was functional, readable and logical. Now compare it to Isotope Ozone, also released around the same time. It was a perfect example of trend-driven design. 3D for the sake of 3D, heavy visuals, dominant colors, mixed styles, and total wow effect. The result is simple. Massive looks acceptable even by today's standards. Ozone, on the other hand, aged almost instantly within the next update. While developers are still trying to figure out what brand identity really is, the very brand identity is slowly killing their companies. Think about it. I'm not talking about the case when brand identity is just a pack of features. That's too obvious when we bring it like that. Let's spot a more subtle killer. When brands chase trends, they almost always use the same popular fonts, the same gradients, the same shadows, colors, lighting effects, the same clean, minimal, modern visual language. When everyone tries to look modern, everyone ends up looking the same. Fashion is by definition mass-oriented, but a brand is about distinction, character and recognizability. And here's the conflict. A very clear example of this is Isotope Ozone. In my opinion, this is the case where a short-term pursuit of fresh, trendy design slowly erased the product's visual DNA. Each new version looked stylistically unrelated to the previous one. And it didn't feel like evolution of the same product, it felt like a complete replacement. As a result, the brand lost a stable visual language. Users couldn't form a clear mental model of the product. Each redesign weakened identity instead of strengthening it. Users never had time to emotionally attach to the visual language and image because it kept changing. And here's a counterexample, just 2 words. Spectrasonics Omnisphere. There's another critical topic that's rarely discussed in UI design. Most trendy interfaces communicate the same feeling. Ultra trendy, innovative, never seen before. At a first glance, that sounds like a good thing, but this is where the problem starts. When users see ultra trendy design, they have no memories connected to it, no emotional association, no sense of something proven or reliable. People don't trust things they have no emotional connection to or familiar patterns with. We might admire new design for a few seconds, but when it comes to daily use or critical tasks, we almost always choose what feels familiar. That's why the audio industry is full of vintage emulations. Vintage gear, emulations from emulations, intentionally old interfaces from the 60s, 70s and so on. and they sell. And they always have, and probably always will. Because familiarity and nostalgia create instant trust. Sometimes recognizability can create a sense of professionalism. A user might see a product for the first time but still feel like they already know how to use it. I suspect this is exactly why many successful modern audio brands didn't start with radical innovation but with something familiar or nostalgic. For example, baby audio and one of their most well-known products, Super VHS. Trendy UI can attract attention and create a quick wow effect. That's its strength. But it almost never builds long-term loyalty. Let's go back to Ozone 3. Imagine a user bought it and loved its bright green 3D design. They associated it with professional mastering tools from the 90s. A few years later, they update and open Ozone 6, different colors, fonts, aesthetics, and character. And that moment, something important happens. The product no longer feels like an evolution, it feels like a replacement. And if it's a replacement, the user is no longer emotionally attached to that brand. They start comparing it to other modern alternatives, including competitors. Many of us remember another classic example of loyalty lost through trendy design: Windows 8. For tablets and touchscreens, it was bold and innovative, but for regular PC and laptop users, it broke real usage patterns that had formed over years. The result was predictable, massive backlash, rejection, and a quick return to Windows 7, and rushed fixes in Windows Point 1. People enjoy novelty, but only to some extent, and figuring out that extent is almost like a lottery. What people use every day is what feels familiar and predictable. So here it leaves you with two strategies. You can go with, wow, this looks new, and accept that this emotion might be replaced by the next trend. Or you can build your design around your core idea or function. If you build your brand purely on trendy design, you might risk ending up with a product or even a brand that feels shallow, manipulative, or even scam-like. Logical, thoughtful design, on the other hand, creates trust, a sense of stability and consistency, and a desire to stay with the product long-term. So the message is simple. Good design is never created for fashion. Good design is created for usability, clarity, and long-term trust. And trends are a tool. So until the next time.